Hello, Sam.
Hey, hello. I'm trying to turn on my video now.
Oh,
Yeah.
Not doing it. I'll figure it out.
So how are you all doing today?
today's a good day.
It's a good day.
For me, it is.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's a good thing.
And how's yours?
It's okay. Well, feel a little tired, stressed. I don't know. It's
I'm
okay.
surprised. I didn't know you did that.
Well, you can't see it necessarily, but sometimes I'm stressed. Yeah.
Hello, Leticia.
Hello.
Hi, Simona.
Hello,
Hi, Simona.
Simona.
Well, we can start going soon. So, how are you, Simona? I can't hear you.
On mute.
No, you're not just muted. You have no microphone. It's not saying anything. Well,
We can't
it's
hear
not
you,
working.
Simona.
So, yeah, can't hear you at all, Simona. It's somehow off. So,
And there's an alien entered the room. It's a very
somebody with a
difficult name.
very strange long name. Yeah, I wonder who that is. Yeah, it sounds like Dutch.
It is.
Yes, yeah, you could say it.
With a soft G, huh?
Mm.
I think, Harry, you've got the right pronunciation there.
Van school in Scheveningen.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
You have that in Danish too, Fleming?
No, there's no such thing there. The hard parts in Danish is stuff like soft Ds, flu, like things that have a D that you have trouble pronouncing without sticking your tongue out if you're not Danish.
Ah, you have two kinds of D's.
You still can you hear me now?
Now we can hear you.
Oh yeah. Good.
Welcome.
There's a bit of echo though.
It's some.
Okay, so now we're mostly here. There might be more people showing up, but we can sort of get started. So the idea today is, the title is Collective Emergence from Silence. And the idea is, as soon as we've sort of said hello, like we're doing here, we will have a brief sort of intro meditation thing. At some point, somebody will launch us into silence, which just means we'll be quiet until we feel that something emerges in the group, that there's a voice of the group somehow. What that will look like, we don't know. Most likely one of us will say something, but the idea is not just that you feel like saying something, it's that somehow there's a sense, there's a connection with what needs to be said in the group, or what the group needs to say somehow. That's an experiment, so we don't necessarily know how that works, but that's what we will attempt. Hello, Moto. So we should probably get going. So how about Leticia, would you like to do a little intro, something to sort of get us in the right mood, maybe?
Okay, great. Thanks, Fleming. So right now, if we could just take a moment and feel yourself present, and we'd like to do a little bit of a check-in. And the check-in isn't what's happening in your life. The check-in is to say one sentence, a word, or a phrase that would begin weaving the container of a collective holding space where we can emerge from the silence. So I'm going to start, and we're going to just go around till everyone has actually put their energy into this space to shape the silence. So for me, today, preparing to come to this gathering, I put myself in the center of this group and ground in to all parts wherever you are. And if we can just move from one person to the next, we'll weave this part together so that it doesn't take a long time. And maybe we'll just hand off. So Harry, if you can go next.
Thank you. You made me realize that we're all on a rather equal distance of the core of the earth. So when we're deeply grounded, that feels like the connection is very deep there as well. And I want to share my growing confidence in what connectedness is, and enormous curiosity in exploring it with you guys. So with that, could I hand over to Jean-Paul?
I feel at peace as I sense every one of you there, your attention, as I look at you, your presence. There's a peacefulness and a quietness that's invasive, like a lullaby, yet alert. Your turn, Fleming.
So I will choose to focus on my senses, which is what I perceive in one way or another through any kind of sense. Maybe senses I wasn't previously aware that I had, but sort of putting out feelers, being aware of what goes on and being ready to be surprised or to learn something or to discover something without having any particular expectations of what it is. And I will pass it on to Valerie.
I think that for me today, I'm bringing with an element of curiosity, but even an element of stepping out of the me, trusting the we. In other words, I would love to connect at a far deeper level than I would normally connect in the sense that I'm actually not even part of me anymore, but that everybody around is us. It's one person. I become what you are. I experience what you feel. And I will pass on to Simona.
Unfortunately, I didn't understand the question. Can you, Leticia, repeat the question, please?
That was my cat. It wasn't a question. We're doing a check-in. And the intention is to weave our energy together. And that means, what are you bringing to help hold the space to emerge from the silence? Or where are you in your energy for this particular meeting?
Where I am in my
And how does that contribute to the silence and the group? It doesn't have to be long. A sentence, a phrase, what you're putting in that weaves in with the framework of everyone else.
It could just be an intention.
Okay. So I can try to bring my the peace I have inside me today, because I had a very peaceful day, a very peaceful weekend. I try to go back to the past this weekend. I spent some days in the first city I moved in France 5 years ago, and it was a good moment for me to go back to the roots, let's say, and have a retrospective of the things that happened lately. And I came back very peaceful and relaxed. And yeah, I would like to bring this state of tranquility.
Beautiful.
And I will pass it to Sam now.
My ears are open. My mouth will mostly be shut. My connections are open. My heart is open. My feet are planted. I'm very curious. Motohiro?
Yep. I'm here to amplify the resonance we are having here. Back to Fleming.
With that, I invite you to let yourself sink into this peace and quiet, our collective silence. Whether you want to see it, hear it, feel it, taste it, your choice. Welcome to our collective.
I am feeling left with this sense of curiosity, a word that Sam spoke, and it keeps rolling around in my consciousness as a way to focus and direct my energy, how to stay curious at this time in the world where peace feels very chaotic. How can I stay in the wonder? And how can I bring that creative curiosity to any situation through all the distractions, the sound, temperatures in my area soaring in triple digits. How can I stay curious and not be distracted?
What I sensed and still sort of sensed in the group, like when we were starting sitting quietly, I felt sort of humorous. I felt like laughing to some extent, which is not a disrespect, but is more sort of an honoring of the many sort of contradictions and little human issues we might have on what is this, what am I supposed to do, our life that around us that's still sort of pushing in on us. And that I sort of sensing into the group, I felt it as sort of funny, humorous, joyful, but it doesn't have to be perfect. That it's sort of funny that we're sitting here looking at each other, trying to connect with what's supposed to happen. And I would feel it flowing maybe more in the direction of something sort of nonsensical, making funny animal noises, than it would be in saying something really clever and deep and philosophical about it. That sometimes it's just sort of moving together, which is sort of an energy. It doesn't have to make sense, but we're just sort of playing and moving together, and that in itself is meaningful, I think.
As I sank into the collective silence, I felt a wave of heat, a sense of warmth, and what I would call a tearful playfulness. Both as a response to me. Yeah, tearful playfulness is the word that describes best the feeling, the tears, the joy, even as a response to the teacher's questions. Those were the two words that came to mind from that silence. I feel in our collective consciousness a tearful playfulness as we play this game. A grateful, tearful, playful sense of being that I feel in our collective consciousness.
Yes, I almost cried in being aware of that we all have the intention of being connected right here, right now. And this is being connected and being one is the state of love. And love gives me the space to wonder and brings me joy, and that makes me very playful at the same time.
As Fleming was speaking, Jean-Paul and Harry, this element of playfulness, it took me back to recently when I was in the game park and I was watching a herd of elephants. And it's a family of elephants. And if you've ever watched elephants, there's this collectivity about them. Everybody is looking out for everybody else. And when a baby elephant is born, all the elephants are there touching, feeling, just close. And when any danger comes close, the entire herd is there protecting each other, holding each other's backs. But what was so remarkable when you talk about the playful, the last time I was there, I was watching elephants playing in the lake. And it was amazing to watch the teenagers. The one was pushing the other in the water and pushing him underwater, and they were playing. But that joyfulness, that protectionness, that was just so incredibly powerful. That was that energy of laughing, fun. And I sense in this group that same kind of, I think, protectiveness, that same kind of maybe individuality, but collective power.
I find it very interesting, this sort of maybe friction or interaction between individuality and the collective. So I mean, we're here together, but we're all different people who sort of feel and experience different things, have different expectations and requirements. At the same time, we're trying to be present together, and in one sense it's almost impossible, but at the same time the endeavor, the game of trying to do it is very interesting. And I think it is more interesting and useful by embracing that. I mean, we are different individuals, and it's maybe more interesting the more so we can accept that. I don't think the outcome that's desired is that we all speak with one voice and say the same thing and do it the same way. That's not very interesting. So it's not getting the right answer or coming out with the same one thing. I mean, what's valuable about this is that we are different and we come at it from different angles, but we can make those angles sort of intertwine, and without running away from it, without having to make it any one simplistic thing. It's to sort of stay with the complexity of, we're different. This is a little complicated, but we're there. We're going with it, and that I think there's a lot of potential in.
Anybody watched movies lately? And I just did, and the best thing about movie is at the end, all the names come out, and the people who made it, and they're not same people, but they created something together without knowing everything, but they created something together. They probably wouldn't be able to make it if there was an audience. So I guess I was part of the creation. Without the theater who played it, they probably wouldn't be able to do it. So the theater was part of the creation too. So that's how I feel when I'm among the people like this.
the question that came to my mind when Motohiro was speaking was, what is it that we want to create together? As the actors all went together and created their film or their movie, what is the movie going to be that as a group we can create? What is our intention?
I personally kind of like improvised sort of movies where we each might bring an intention or a character or some piece of it, but we don't know quite how it will interact, how it will work. And so that doesn't mean showing up with nothing and having no direction at all, rather showing up with something as deliberate, as clear, as unique as possible, and then seeing how those things interact. There are other ways of doing it. It's maybe it's my particular preference, but it also means we don't have to necessarily agree in advance on what it will be, but we might agree on getting together and some kind of theme of what kind of pieces do we bring. And always being open to that some unexpected things will show up, and that's maybe part of the story, that there are some plot twists and surprises and unexpected things that happen that nobody really were prepared for, but that turn out to be wonderful, preferably.
Yeah, I like the idea of showing up fully. And when each of us can show up fully, ready to give our gift, then the edges meet and the energy moves and ebbs in the directions that are both sensitive to the collective and the individual. So no one's holding back. It's not about waiting to see what somebody else says or trying to catch the wave of someone else in the conversation, but seeing how the energy sits in you and writing both my own personal arising with the energy as I'm sensing into the co-arising flow.
What I feel from my sense of our silence, of collective, is that we are safe right here. We are totally safe right here, right now. There's nothing to be concerned about. There is nothing to chase. Feel safe and play.
I'm struggling a little right now. I'm struggling with, for me, I can show up, I can be here, I can share my energy. For what purpose? I make a movie and it's to entertain. I might want to scare people, might want to make people laugh. I'm looking for a purpose. I'm struggling to, yes, I want to be me, I want to be in the group, and I want to share with you, but I want a purpose. I want to see something come out of it.
All this feeds my sense and my desire to wander. They say when you wander, you're closest to God.
I see things, everything in the theater. We could be the character of the play, or we could be scene behind the play or stage. We could be the roof of the play, the theater. We could be the audience. We could be the somebody who's selling the tickets of the play. But that's how I see human interaction. And when Letitia mentioned about the being a fully present, is I interpret, well, I translate that as we are respecting the space of the theater. We are co-creating the theater. We don't know what play we are playing. That's depending upon how we interact. That's, I think, Fleming is mentioning about the improv mention. Whoever the audience are, whoever the actors are, each of the characters or each of the participants are aware their role could constantly change, and able to play without destroying the theater. Oftentimes, if we are not aware, if we are not share the co-creating space, if we are not present, there's a danger of destroying the theater itself. And that's how I'm interpreting at the moment.
It will be interesting to destroy the theater together.
For me, there are some intentions, or maybe some framing that I always have present, that I will sort of assume is part of everything I do, but which I might not voice very often. So it's something in the direction of helping or participating in creating a world that works for all of us, and in the direction of together as some kind of network, improving conditions where we are in our communities, in the world, between us. And almost everything I do will go in that direction, that it's about how can we somehow together, how do we relate to each other, what do we do, how do we interact in order to make things better. So it's a change the world kind of thing, but connecting it with the small to the very large. How can we play our piece? How can we be part of the network of humanity in order to make things better for all of us, including for ourselves? And that's very big, but it's also, to me, relatively down to earth, in that it can start with us getting better at relating to each other or being present with each other. And I would find quite natural if that leads to that, if we are relatively good at that, we might move on to, well, what naturally we feel like needs to be done, or not necessarily all together, but different individuals or different groupings of us have things to do, maybe with each other, maybe with other people. And if we can get better at flowing together, showing up authentically, being present, then all of that can sort of fit better together. And for me, that's sort of a meta purpose. which maybe I should state it more clearly, or I don't know. But for me, so when somebody says, well, what are we doing? What's the purpose? Or if somebody's missing, well, what's the exact question? Or what's the thing? I both understand that, and at the same time, I'm a little surprised that it's needed, but that's maybe in part because I very happily connect with this very large sort of transform humanity kind of thing, and I can't necessarily expect everybody to sort of sense that all the time. So I just wanted to state that for me, there's, even when I'm saying, well, it's just whatever, we're improvising, whatever shows up, that's not just to sort of entertain ourselves and pass time. It's because to find out how can we connect that up with improvising, saving humanity, and being happy, and big things like that.
My frustration level has dropped. Okay, I understand that it's for the greater good, and I think that's great, and I love your purpose. What for me was the missing link was the moving from our being silent and quiet together into applying it for the greater good, and that you've explained to me very well, and thank you. That makes sense to me.
Do we actually need to do that? That is what comes to my mind. Do we really need to do that to play this game of life, this game of flow? Do we need to improve? Do we need to have a purpose to play this game?
Jean-Paul, I'm a little bit thinking about your comments, and I'm moving into the other room, by the way. My brother is now in that room. Me, I think it's the sense of being. You know, I feel, or my awareness in this moving in the center of my purpose, my own purpose, my position in the collective, regardless of the grouping, is very clear. And so that, quote unquote, that part that we play is just being who we're being in the world. It's not an effect for me. That's what I'm not looking for. I'm looking for aligning with people of purpose in this emergent field. And my frame, whenever I come to these meetings, is that this is the place that I get to be with Fleming. This is this is the place of all the places in the world, unless I actually fly to Toulouse, this is the place where I get to have a collective experience with Fleming instead of just a one-on-one, but a being and a doingness of something with someone that matters to me. And to explore and experience a world of people who have been attracted either just to the conversation itself or to Fleming. And in my view, it is those overlapping realities that create something new and different. And it's only from the place of collective awareness that to me comes in the silence. The action of talking doesn't allow for the deep reflection that's necessary for all the senses and consciousness to sort of coalesce into something new and different.
I personally am actually just as happy framing this as showing up with no particular purpose. So one reason I'm not stating purposes very often is that my framing, if you can call it that, is that life is about showing up ready to be surprised without too many preconceived ideas about what it will be, and that it's fundamentally a positive and good thing. That I don't need to limit it with, well, we're doing this in order to do this good thing. I mean, just showing up, being present, experiencing something a little bit new and different, interacting with others, that in itself is useful and to me will, generally speaking, lead to good things if we really show up. And yes, I can voice that as fitting into an overall intention of a better world. But for me, that's relatively irrelevant whether that's stated or not. That's sort of understood that it's good to be present. Life is good. Let's do more of it. I mean, we don't have to get more technical than that. So I can go either way, state some really large, ambitious intentions, or make it very simple that we're just showing up and seeing what happens. So pick any one.
Sorry, I have to laugh because as she was saying that, I just suddenly thought about this concept of, okay, it's like sex. Okay, you go into it for the fun of it and the enjoyment. In the end, there is a purpose somewhere along the line to procreate, to have other babies, but in the end, it's just the enjoyment of it.
Well, for some people, careful planning might increase it. I don't know. There are different ways of going about it.
The metaphor I was thinking is something a little different. I was thinking more of the Zen meditation. You sit. That's purpose of just sit, and you don't have to do it alone. And you actually gather, a bunch of friends and the people, and just sit. You don't talk, and that's what it feels like. And if I could add one more thing, just train of thought. Time is an interesting concept. The result doesn't have to, or something doesn't have to be in this time when we are together. If outside of this meeting or this gathering, that something could happen because we are holding this space, and I find that's oftentimes is true. Now it may not be like a month away. It could be like a few months or even a year down the track. Because we are here today, we may have an impact, and that's how I feel.
If we like the collectiveness, the connections, and we want to scale this, how could we retain this while we reach for 100 or 1,000 or 10,000?
We will.
What I hear is that it is already there. We just tune out of it regularly. There's nothing to amplify. What we amplify is our personal connection to this energy.
I kind of see it that way too, that there's something that's always there. And it doesn't really matter who is there or what the circumstances are. There's something you can connect into, which is a certain type of space of just being present. And in that sense, it helps to sort of get over having any requirements of the right people being there or the right theme or the right conditions. It's something that one can connect with in principle at any moment. might take a little practice, but I think what part of what we're experiencing is that it's always there, and in a certain sense it's always the same, but in another sense there's lots of things that are different, and on top of that we can maybe build, well, what are we going to do with it, like personal connections and actual intentions of what to do with it, which is not that energy, but it's sort of can be made on top of it, or be found on top of it, that we find, okay, well, we agree on this thing, let's do it together. In a sense, I don't think that's the purpose, but it can lead to all these other wonderful things that we can just be present, and that's sort of a basis for everything else. So I see it that way too. It's already there. It doesn't even require work. It requires maybe getting some things out of the way, or relaxing a little bit, or not having too many expectations, and paying attention a little bit, and getting over our hang-ups and stuff like that. But basically it's already there. Also, we're getting towards the end of the hour, so we can sort of gradually move towards, well, how is this useful? How did this experiment work, and what does that mean to us?
I actually like the pace of this conversation experiment. It felt good to me to just be relaxed with the group. One of my favorite parts. Let me add this other thing. That's not to say that I didn't feel awkward sometimes in the silence.
I think what touched me a lot was I expressed a need, a frustration, and the group responded. And I thought that was beautiful.
I came in a little too late, and I expected something silent, and then I met a big explanation of the purposes, and I felt a certain tension, and then it was nice how it calmed down and how this peacefulness came back into the group. I just observed it and liked it.
Thank you for showing up, Heidi.
And I always enjoy the Harry's playfulness, very artistic and playfulness.
Me too.
Yeah, I enjoyed the ebb and flow of tonight's conversation, the ins and out of the collective as I got embarked, tossed off, sent back, plunged again, in and out over and over again. It was both fun and exciting, and as Leticia has mentioned, awkward at times as well. But it all ends well.
The point where the silence becomes awkward, at the same time, then it becomes very interesting too.
the sense of connection. I felt a wanting to be in the same room, rubbing elbows, smelling each other. And that we could actually, always return here whenever we want to.
Yeah, we could start a virtual Fleming's bar.
Where we just sit silently. Well, I like the conversations where the silence sort of appears sort of repeatedly, sort of naturally. And okay, I feel also both it's very nice and sort of a fruitful atmosphere, and also a little awkward maybe. I'm wondering, is everybody okay with that? Who's like wondering when it will stop and things like that. But I think it's a good sign that it naturally happens again and again, that we're quiet and then something else emerges. I like that rhythm of it very much.
The funny part is I find the awkwardness more during the conversations than during the silence. Makes sense.
Any other last minute remarks, Simona?
Yeah, for me, the repetitive moments of silence that we had during this session made me think of the question Leticia asked at the beginning of the meeting, how to stay curious without getting lost in with the distractions that we have around, how to stay curious to experience new feelings and create things. And eventually I was thinking if disconnecting for everything, disconnecting of everything for a few minutes or for a few moments, it's something that can be learned. And how good would be if we would all manage to disconnect of our lives for a few moments every week. And that made me think of some very stressful moments I had a few years ago in Germany at work. And I remember someone who came in our office and said, every time when you feel very stressed and very tense, just take a moment and take a moment for yourself, even if you have very important things to do, and just disappear from the office, go on the river, take an hour for yourself, even if people need you somewhere else, and try to connect with the nature, try to look a little bit around on the little things that you see around, on simple events, simple things happening around you, or simple people, and try to be grateful for what you can see and for what others are feeling, and try to be grateful as much as possible, because this is something that can bring positivism and help you become more curious and be present.
So I'm thinking quite possibly the more stressed things are, or the more important the discussion is, or the more heavy the stakes are, the more important it is to be silent and let nothing happen some of the time.
And I'm reminded that if we like this feeling, then we can enjoy it because we don't actually need that many words.
So this is probably enough words. So unless there are any other last minute remarks, maybe that's the end of the session. So thank you all for coming this time. It's been lovely. If anybody wants to stick around for a short planning session, please do so. Anybody's welcome. Otherwise, thank you all for being here, being quiet or not, and hope to see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Fleming.